Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So today I have Noah on with us. He is an artist, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, a black belt, and he's actually been doing jiu-jitsu artwork for a while now. I figured it would be very interesting to have him come on to be able to share with you his journey in jiu-jitsu, his journey in art and design, and kind of how they got to come together. So thank you for coming on, Noah.
Thank you for having me.
So Noah, you said recently, you just told me you've been training for just over or just about 8 years. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so what got you into jujitsu in the very beginning? And did you have the art background at the time as well, or was that something that came after?
So I've been doing art since I was a kid. Maybe like uh, uh really actually trying to do stuff. I remember more or less learning like how to draw a very specific carnation from my mom around the time I was 5. So from then on, that's like where I could count that I could say like, yeah, that's I've been doing art since then. And jiu-jitsu, I got into it later on in life. I was working for a clothing brand doing their design, doing the art direction for the company. And my brother started training. And at the time I was getting pretty unhealthy and I was like, "Oh, I want to try this." It was cool because I, my brother's like, "Well, I know someone that runs a gym that you could go to it. You could go check it out." And I was like, okay, give me a month. So like for a month, I ran like 3 miles every day. Just ran just because I felt like, okay, I want to get in shape to enter jiu-jitsu, but like it didn't matter. I went in there and I was gassed after the warm-ups. This jiu-jitsu was a whole different thing. But after that day, I was hooked.
Okay, and it has been 8 years, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And then when in your journey did you start doing jujitsu artwork?
Um, I think at blue belt, so it would have been a little bit over, or maybe just about slightly over a year. At I was a white belt for slightly over a year. I got my blue belt. I ended up switching gyms because I moved. I was kind of working in LA, so I moved more close to like the Palm Springs area, and I started training at a gym out here. And I would just take my sketchbook and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna draw. I started doing some like judo throws, drawings, and just sketches. And then I created the Instagram for it, and I just started uploading it just because. And the more I kept doing it, the more like it got a little more likes, a little more likes, a little more likes, and then and people started reaching out for work. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
there's like a few steps before that I kind of like completely like because I already had a career in art, but like doing specifically jiu-jitsu art, there's a few people that played a key role in that to like completely launch me and for me to feel confident to start charging people for that type of work.
Yeah. Now, what has been the craziest piece of artwork you've ever done? And like, was it local? Have you done international artwork? Would you share
Yeah,
that?
one of my so I started doing painting because I already painted, but I was like, you know what? I was kind of like in a creative slump, so I'm like, I'm gonna do a jujitsu painting. I hadn't done one before, and I did a
Mhm.
jujitsu painting. And it was completely different than my other art. It's a little more abstract, a little more contemporary. Not abstract enough where you can't tell what it is, but I'm not like doing the details of the faces. And
Yeah.
someone from Brazil saw it, and they're like, "Hey, I want a painting." And they commissioned a painting. I mean, the whole thing was to get them the painting was a crazy story in itself. So the painting's beautiful. It's hanging in his beautiful home. Um, but his wife was traveling to New York. So I had to get it done in the timeline and get it shipped to New York while she was still there to receive it. So I got
Wow.
it done. I packaged it, shipped it to New York. It wasn't getting there, and his wife was leaving. She was
No.
out. She was walking out the hotel, and it got shipped to the hotel. and I think she said that they saw the mail come in, so they doubled back into the hotel and grabbed the painting, and then they left to the airport. So it was like this close that they wouldn't have gotten the painting.
Oh man. And
Yeah.
so after that point, you start to see like there's a progression in people wanting it. I think there's a big passion for art that people appreciate because of jujitsu being a martial art. Like it just takes a
Hmm.
lot of creativity and it's very methodical. It's very consuming in time to finally progress. And I think artwork, you know, being a good artist, it takes the same amount. I'm not an artist, but you start to see progression over time with artists when they start to share their initial drawings or paintings and then years later and it's night and day difference just like jujitsu I think as well in your journey.
Yeah.
For those that kind of are getting to know you more, would you say that as you started to paint jujitsu portraits or doing artwork, did it affect at all how you thought about jujitsu differently, or did it bleed into it in a different way where you were a bit more creative? Does that make any sense? Like,
Um,
did you approach it with a different viewpoint after you were doing something outside in your lifestyle that was imitating what you were actually trying to do in the gym?
I'm gonna try to respond to how I understood it. So
Okay.
the so the way I approached it, it actually really benefited my jiu-jitsu because I had to watch a lot of film, and get understanding the anatomy of the body. So it actually helped my art outside of jiu-jitsu, and then obviously my creativity creates the jiu-jitsu art. But I studied so much film, so many instructionals. Um, I mean, there isn't a video on YouTube that I probably haven't watched, and just kind of understanding what real positions look like. So every time that I'm creating a piece, I want to make sure that it looks real, that it's a position that someone's gonna get into and they're gonna understand, like, yeah, that's the hand is in the right position, the legs are in the right position. So everything is very, very thought out, and 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 because I spent so much time watching film, it also like translates into, oh well, like now I'm watching Adam Warzinski. Now I'm studying butterfly guards. So now I'm like, oh, I'm drawing butterfly guards. I'm gonna try that move now. I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna, work on leg locks because a lot of people like drawings with leg locks in them. So it helped.
Yeah.
It just
What do
benefited
you
me.
what do you think the most common request is that you get for portraits or pieces of artwork that is a specific position or submission?
They I get asked a lot for guard passing stuff. You know, uh,
Oh,
yeah, just because the positions are very like you could tell what it is. You have
yeah.
someone on top, someone on bottom. Because sometimes when you get into the entanglements, and I have a very funny story about this. When you get into the entanglements to the outside people outside of jiu-jitsu, it might look weird. So,
Okay.
so I had a client who wanted a someone doing a heel hook. So I did the heel hook. I think it was out of a 50-50. Um, and
So
he
specific. I like it.
so I did
Yeah.
it. It's done. It looks awesome. I'm like, oh man, I'm even jealous that I have to like sell this. Like it's so good. And I sent it out to him, and he's like, hey, I sent it to my friends and some tattoo artists, and they say it looks a little sexual, a little compromising. Uh, and I was like, I mean, like to the outside person, anything in jiu-jitsu is gonna
It
look
looks
weird.
yeah.
Um, so I ended up he's a very cool person, so I was like, you know what, let me redo it for you. What are you thinking? What other position do you want to do? We ended up with a triangle. I mean, it's still gonna look weird. There's no, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. So, but yeah, guard passing is the
Guard passing.
more, yeah, the
I thought
more
it was
requested
an
one.
armbar.
No, not
I see.
really.
Like or like a triangle, but yeah, I guess guard passing is the most universal type of picture that somebody can get if they don't really understand jujitsu.
Hmm.
Um, it's funny because what I noticed personally, and I don't know if other people have noticed this, but I think the more that jujitsu has been growing and just talked about more and more, especially on social media, probably maybe 5 years ago is when, as I progressed in my jujitsu career, I really valued the jujitsu artwork, but there was like not a lot out there at the time. And so when I came across different pieces of art that represented, moving up in belts, because there's a whole journey in your belt, as you're getting promoted, and then people get to put it into artwork. I mean, people really value that, and that's why people have artwork everywhere in their gyms and even at home as they progress with their belts. So for you, this sounds like a silly question, but did you, as you continue to better your artwork, did you want to keep any of it? Like, do you have your office filled with the artwork that you started with jujitsu when it really became like a full time passion and part of your career, and
No,
how you have
everything's for sale,
that's
But
true.
also, I like everything. One, everything moves. Two, like for myself, like I can't keep things too long because I need change. Like when I have canvases hanging in my office space, I switch them out because I just get angsty about seeing the same thing over and over. So uh,
Um,
I'm lucky that there's people out there that want my art, so I end up selling a lot of it. So I've given some away just because, it's like I just want my art to be out there. And when I find people who really appreciate art like that, um, I want them to have a piece of art in their house that isn't something like from IKEA,
yeah,
something to some basic stuff. So I want them to have something real. So I'll give some stuff to some close people.
friends, that's
Like
good.
this one. Can you see it? The one behind me?
Yeah, I love that one. I
Yeah,
saw
that
that
one.
one
I
on Instagram.
mean, he's gonna get mad when he sees this because I was supposed to ship this out a while ago, but that one's going to to Shanji Hibario, and
Okay.
yeah, so like I just I'd rather them be in places where people are really gonna appreciate them.
Yeah, yeah. Have you met other people in jujitsu nearby or like been able to connect with other artists that are in jujitsu because of sharing everything on Instagram?
Um, Not necessarily. There's a few artists that have built their followings, but um. Other than like one person that kind of reaches out and just kind of like, hey, like I like your work. Um, I don't we don't really cross paths, you know.
Yeah. I was wondering if you would have people that got connected and then would want to like imitate or try to go off of, some of your artwork just because I mean, you got in early, you know what I mean? As far as being able to share it and grow, I feel like now it's probably gonna start ramping up and now you have AI and you have all this other stuff that people I feel like will try to mimic.
Yeah. Give me like 1 second. Let me just plug this in. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. Um, I,
You can
I
let
don't
your
like
passion.
talking about that. I don't like talking about that because then it comes out like uh either I'm coming off too cocky or I'm gonna come off like I'm hating on other people. But um I'm flattered when people use some elements that I use in my work that they weren't using prior to. I'm flattered. Um, and if they see this, I see you. I see you. I see you out there. Um, but but that's
Sure.
pretty much it. I mean, there is some like younger kids, some teens, some um people who are young who are actually really trying to do art and reach out to me and say, "What can I do? I love your work. Can you critique some of my work?" And I'm more than happy to do that. So like when people reach out to me like that, that's amazing to me. It's just like I'm honored that you'd want me to look at your artwork and you'd want to take my critique.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that that would probably be something that more and more people would be interested in too, especially if they started that path. But like you said, I think with you studying as much as you have, the whole dynamic and movement of jujitsu that really plays a role. And I feel like portraying that in your artwork, where if somebody is just starting, or maybe they're great at art, but they don't really understand jujitsu, it's not going to be the same at all.
Hmm.
Kind of going back into your journey in jujitsu. So you said your brother is the one that got you into jujitsu. Now, is
Yeah.
he still training as well, or do you guys train together?
We don't train together. He lives closer to LA, so he trains at Checkmat Santa Ana. And he's a brown belt, so I
Oh,
passed him up.
I was wondering if he like
Yeah,
invited you in and then he like quit or something, because some
yeah,
people will get to their blue belt or something and then they'll just be like,
yeah.
all right, and then you keep going and people fall off, throughout your journey.
Yeah,
So,
he had the misfortune of switching gyms. So,
oh,
sometimes when you switch gyms, it kind of takes you back a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so now that you guys are both neck and neck, I mean, you're a black belt, he's a brown belt. Do you guys feel like you're constantly in competition when you do visit each other, or is it pretty chill?
It's it's chill more now. Um, we exchange now like, hey, what are you doing? What are you working on? Have you tried this? Oh, I love doing that. Like, he got into really into half guard, and like half guard is like I love half guard. And I'm like, have you tried this? Are you working on this? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, some of the guys from Checkmat do this. And he shows me. I was like, okay, show me that again. Okay, I like that. I'm gonna implement that. So now it's more of an exchange of ideas. But when we first started, it was a lot more competitive. I mean, at the time, my brother was probably like 150 pounds, 160 pounds. I was maybe like 230, and like we were sparring one time, and he got into side control with like he used to be a wrestler with like wrestler pressure. He popped my rib off of that, and I was like, oh, okay, like so I got injured off of that when we were really competitive. But as we kind of got older, it's just more like it's more chill and more like, okay, let's try this out. And when we spar, it's a lot more fun. It's like we're kind of he has a very I told him it's kind of like if you ever seen the boxer Maromero Pais. He's like very like dancing and like it's a little goofy because the guy was a clown and he became a pro boxer. So he was a little goofy, but he's very like fluid. So like that's how my brother is. So it's very fun to roll with him.
Wow. Yeah, I always thought it'd be interesting, the people that I've spoken to, and even myself with our siblings. Like, I have four older siblings, and none of them train, but they are military guys, so they'll do stuff that the military does, but it's not pure jujitsu. And so, plus, they're way larger and way more intense than I am, so it'll go like 0 to 100. But having siblings where you guys are closer in, number one, both training jujitsu, but also just your relationship, I feel like that does help a lot. Um,
Mhm.
do you feel like it drew you guys closer because you guys have a similar interest and you're able to work on things together? Or do you feel like it's always been the same as far as your guys' interaction?
My brother's my best friend, so we've uh for good and for bad, my dad put into our heads that you guys are the only things that you guys have. So that made certain like growing up making other friends outside of me and my brother a little more difficult, but me and my brother are super tight, so like this just brought us even more together. We're in business together, so if we're not talking business, we're talking jujitsu. So
Nice.
it's really awesome.
That's
And like
super cool.
it's not just like my brother and my my little cousins train as well. And they're like my little brothers because we grew up together. So they also train, and my little cousin's wife trains as well. So like, it's like a whole family thing.
Yeah. What would you say to somebody who, let's say they have a close in age sibling or they are close and they want to invite their sibling to come train, right? And start a class, but they're like, nah, it's not my thing or I'm not interested. How do how do you get them in the door? Because you were the one that was invited, right? And then you were like
Yeah.
hesitant due to, because some of them will be hesitant due to like not being in shape or embarrassed about it or, just feeling awkward.
Mhm.
Or maybe they are, I've noticed, well, like I said, with my siblings, the competitiveness could also lead to like, "Ah, I don't want to go because I don't want you to show me up or whatever. It's ego. What would
I'm
you
gonna see red.
What would you say to somebody that's
Uh,
like trying to get their sibling to come to jujitsu and for whatever reason they're not quite sure about it?
with my friends, as we grew up, we had like a word that was like a really a word that would make you do, you know, like whatever it is. And it's like, don't be a coward. For some reason, that always worked, So tell your friends, your family, your brother, your sisters, like, don't be a coward. Why are you being a coward for? But
Worth a shot.
people don't like being called a coward, so it works. But in all seriousness, I would say is make sure that the environment is adequate for the person you're trying to invite before you invite them, because you can completely turn them off if you invite them to a fight club type gym when they don't want to have a fight. They don't have that in them. They're more like, I just want to have fitness, I want to train, I want to have fun, meet some people who have the same interests, because some gyms are um you know you go in there first day, you get beat up, and that's one of the problems that I think, as some gyms out there having the problem with having a business and growing it and actually having jujitsu be a form of income, is that you're creating a place to just beat up people, and you're not gonna make money in the long run from that. People get injured, people get turned off, you know. And I've seen it. I've been to places. I've been at places where it's been like that, and it's just like, if I wasn't as tough as I was, I would have quit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what with your first gym that you went into? I mean, I know you moved. Your first initial reaction, what was it like when you went in? Was it a pretty open and chill gym? Like, what was your initial experience?
At first, it was chill. At first, it was chill. They had a very diverse group of people. My very first class, I got beat up by a girl who was like super small, and she just whooped me. Um, and um, that was cool. But as those people ended up dropping out for whatever reason, then it became more of a fight club and more of a like, you know, the the coach there was an MMA fighter, so
Oh,
he sparred with intention to kill,
yeah.
So it was it was rough. I forgot what your question was, because I just got
Well,
lost in all the things that happened.
all PTSD from the
Yeah.
fight or flight. No,
Yeah.
yeah, you pretty much answered it. Is you felt like welcomed and it was pretty chill at first, but as the
Mhm.
dynamic and culture changed, that's when things started to really shift for you as far as understanding the expectations as far as how intense you had to go and your mentality to fit in the gym, probably, right?
Yeah.
So when when you left, were you a blue belt or what? How advanced were you
Mhm.
when you switched gyms?
I mean, I'm very grateful to them. To this day, I'm very grateful to them. I did get my blue belt, and I told them, hey, I'm gonna quit my job, so I'm going to move away. If you are thinking of giving me a blue belt anytime soon, um, the time would be now, because I would love to have that from you guys. Just because although it was not the environment for everyone, I got a lot out of it myself. So they did ended up promoting me,
Mm,
which was awesome. And to this day, I still message my coach from there once in a while and just go like, hey, like, yeah, I'm a black belt now, but you gave me my blue belt, so
yeah,
like just as a thank you, and almost like a honoring that, because I did get tougher. I more than that, I got my health back. At the time when I joined, I was I was just bad, going bad. I was really really overweight, and just with their training, I mean the classes were 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours long, and it was like hard sparring. So I mean, like, at the same time, I loved it. I didn't miss a class. I was there 4 days a week, because then I'd have to drive back out of town to see my family. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I feel like in the beginning too, it is. I mean, everyone starts for a different reason. Like yours, it sounded like was initially like health and just changing routine and your mindset. And
Yeah.
then you went into a gym that was pretty intense. And so you had no option but to change your mindset. And
Mhm.
then naturally your body changed, right? Because you're
Yeah.
spending so much time in a place that doesn't allow you to slack off or not be prepared. As long as you're showing up, they're probably willing to show and share with you. But I think I can definitely attest to what you were saying as far as the respect for your gyms, because I moved. I mean, I was probably a year in and hadn't my first gym. It was like a bit more Americanized, where they gave colored belts to adults. And I didn't know any
Mhm.
better. So, like, I just had a good time training all the time. And I moved to Florida, and then I had a Brazilian instructor, and he was like, "Why are you wearing that?" And I was like, "They just gave me a yellow belt. I don't know." And he was like, "Get that off." And he like made me
Yeah.
take it off. I'm just happy to be here. So then he gives me like extra stripes, and then he promotes me to blue belt. I think maybe like 2 months later. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't. I came also like with the mentality of never really asking about promotions, never really bringing it up, and it was pretty consistent over and over again that wasn't accepted. And so when I got promoted, I was really shocked, and then I moved again to where I'm at now, and I came in as a uh, maybe first or second stripe blue belt. But I have that same respect for all my instructors, where they put so much time and investment into me. Um, and all of them had really good atmospheres. But I also came from a gym in the very beginning where it was a lot more of a sink or swim, where we didn't have females that were consistent. And
Mhm.
if I wanted to do good and learn, I was just going to shut up and figure it out. And then I came to my second gym where it was way more welcoming. Even though he was really intense, I knew he really cared because I also worked there. Um, but I mean, they were way more laid back. And then now I'm laid back here as well. So I feel like even my shape of jujitsu has shifted. But I think a huge part of it is the type of gym that you choose as far as what you're wanting to get out of it. How is your gym now compared to the first one that you went to?
The one that I'm now, it's amazing. It's
Is
a
it one that
um
has a lot of people that compete, or is it
there
pretty
there's
intense?
people that come there's people that compete at the smaller tournaments. We got a couple people that do more like IBJJF, more than a couple that do IBJJF, but just the community that we've really built here, and the environment that we have at the gym, it's a beautiful place. And um I mean, sometimes I feel bad for people who are like at other types of gyms, because it's like, okay, I could being here, I understand, and having gone to different gyms prior to being at this one, I
Yeah.
understand why people quit. you know, how
Why do you think people quit? Like, what makes you see why
um
people?
so for example, when I left that gym, I went to another gym, and then that gym wasn't adequate enough to what my goals were. So I left that gym and I was looking around and I was visiting different gyms. And I was even thinking of maybe moving to San Diego or back to LA. So I was checking out different gyms, and I ended up at a gym where it was very clicky. You know, it's like I'm here visiting, I'm here checking you guys out. You'd think they'd be welcoming, but instead it's just like, oh nah, like it's almost like, oh, here's a visitor, let's whoop them. I mean, I didn't get whooped, but their intention was to try to whoop me, and it wasn't happening. It didn't happen. But it was just I didn't feel welcome. It was just like, oh, so I'm just gonna come in here and fight every day, and as I was looking also for a gym for my family, I was like, okay, this is not the environment that I would want them in. Like I could handle that, but I don't want my kids, I don't want like my family in this. So I um I didn't end up choosing. So I know people end up in places like that, where it gets clicky. You got to deal with people who are very like clicky, or where people take the hierarchy way too serious in the sense of like, oh, you can't talk to me like that. I'm a purple belt, I'm a brown belt, I'm a black belt. It's like you're a white belt, shut up, like or like, hey, I once heard a white belt ask one of the he was a brown belt, and he was asking him about like some 10th planet move, and he's like, stop asking questions and learn how to, I don't know what move it was, learn how to do this first. And it's like, come on, man, like that's not like, imagine that you come in excited and you want to ask your coach or professor something, and they're like, nah, shut up. go go do hip escapes instead. Like, oh, thanks,
Well, I think
you know.
that's also a little bit old school mentality, I mean, not everybody, but I've seen some of the older school guys where, I mean, they're really chill, but it's not uncommon where I've noticed that a few of them will just be like, "Well, this is how it was done. Like, just be quiet," Or it's not where they say it directly, but it's so unbelievably clear. Like you just like I remember one time, and this is funny because I think culture is huge for your first interaction. And I was at a seminar. It was actually at our gym, and it was a lesson learned. It was an interesting experience where there was a black belt that came, and they're very close with my professor. My professor is pretty chill. I'm probably more rigid than my professor is as far as like the old ways, because he likes the old ways, but he is much more easygoing. So anyway, we had the seminar, and I said, "Oh, something Toti," because it's Toti is his name, and he has always been like, "Just call me Toti," like not Professor Toti. So I've once again been training here for years. And I said Toti, and the black belt that had known him that came to visit for this big seminar, and there was like 60 people. And he was like, "You don't call him Toti. Like he's your professor. You call him Professor Toti." He's like, "You're representing everybody." And I was like shocked. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like first off, I get you're a black belt, but you're visiting also. And then I had to like bring my ego down, and I was like, "Okay, he's probably just trying to prove a point here. He wants me to show respect, like I understand." But I looked at him first, Toti, and I was like, "Do you feel disrespected?" Because like if that's something that bothers you, I'd rather have you tell me personally. And I like went away after I calmed down, and I was like, "Did you get upset by this?" And he was like, "No." Just pretend and call me that in front of people in seminars, because obviously some of them that are visiting are a little bit more rigid. And I was like, okay, as long as
Mhm.
you're not offended. Had that been my first experience, though, not 9 years in, I probably, as a female and being more sensitive, would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Like, I didn't mean for it to be, I think it's hard when people are in their exploration year, the first year. There's a lot of filtering, right? Like what's accepted and what's not. And I would say I agree with certain schools. You have to be really cautious with. the clicks, but also people that they say that this is the one and only way, and it's sometimes like it's worth checking out another one or two schools to see if it's something that you really long term can stick with or not, because then it's a discouraging. You don't want to go and invest all your time and effort and money into a sport that you're like, this person like freaks me out, it's scary.
Yeah.
So do your kids train currently?
Yes. My oldest boy, he's wrestling now, so he does more wrestling.
Okay.
My younger one does it, but more like a hobbyist type, so he doesn't really like to compete. He's like, no, that's not my thing. He was a little savage when he was a kid. He was cold-blooded when he was a kid. But after going through some like smaller um companies that put organizations that put these events together, um he they ended up putting him with like a lot of older kids, and he was just getting thrashed, and he was no longer fighting kids his age, his weight, nothing. So like it just they pretty much beat the competition out of him. So like now he's just
Mm,
like, no, that's not my thing. I don't want to do it.
yeah.
So I don't push him, but to me it's like, okay, but you gotta train. You gotta train. There's no other way. Like you don't have to compete, but you have to show up to train. And he got really tall, so now it's like, okay, come do the adult classes with me. You know. So
Wow. So do they train with you pretty much full time still, or is the one in wrestling just mainly doing wrestling? Do you still have him in jujitsu at all?
only when during the off season he'll come back to jiu-jitsu and do competitions, just because he's just that type of kid. He just loves to compete. Um, he loves to just be in that environment. And the other one, he just is year round for him till if he finds something else that he finds interest in, it's like, okay, I'm gonna support you to do that. But other than that, it's like you're in jiu-jitsu.
Are they
Um,
gonna?
but yeah,
Are you gonna encourage them to keep doing it up until like they're out of the house? Pretty much like it's mandatory.
yeah, I think so. I don't think they'd stop. Um, yeah,
Good.
I don't see them stopping. Yeah, the little one maybe because he's like, I'd rather play video games, but but
That's
it's like, okay, yeah, I don't think they'd
what
quit.
so we've considered like we're gonna probably start, to try to grow a family in the next little bit. And we've always considered like, okay, what's the breaking point where you say this is what we do as a family, like it's this is part of our lifestyle, just like eating dinner and going out, whatever. So we're gonna all train. But then there is a point where you want them to also enjoy life and you don't want to feel too forced. Ours was kind of like, should we have a baseline of so many days that they need to train a week and they can choose the time, and then they can do any other sport or any other thing that they want to do, but like jujitsu is one thing that we do as a family. And if and when we do that, is it something we should do up until age 18 when they're out of the house, or do we kind of let them? I've heard some coaches where they'll let them go up until blue belt once they know enough to keep themselves safe, that they say if you don't want to keep doing it, you don't have to. What would you
Yeah.
say, like for us thinking about having kids? It's going to be based on the child, I'm sure, but the overall consensus, like how do you gauge whether you should push them to keep doing it full time or letting them stop after a certain point?
I think you put them in it. Um, and honestly, the rate of kids stopping is gonna have to do with how you are as a parent, right? Because obviously the gym is important too, but I'm gonna assume that you're not gonna choose can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not gonna choose a shitty place to take your kids to, right? And if you did, you're gonna pull them out and put them somewhere else. But
Yeah.
so it's gonna have to do with you how long they last, right? So what you do is you put them in, and obviously as they grow and they become their own person, um, they start finding other interests. So you want kids to be active, but it's like okay, but you have to do jujitsu, like you said, twice a week. If you want to go do football, or you want to do soccer, you want to do cheerleading, gymnastics, whatever it might be, like you can, but like this is your base for right now, because it just gives you so much for life as how you carry yourself as a person, the confidence. I mean, I've coached kids who cried, who wouldn't even step on the mats, and now you see them and they're like all smiles and they're confident and they're sparring and like they're awesome. Like to me, every time I see those kids, it's like I'm so super proud of them. Um, but like you put them in there and you gauge your kid on what their interests are. But for sure, I think having them have this as a like your base, your
Like a
foundation to other
non-negotiable.
sports is gonna be good. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because you know, to other parents, I would say like read the book Mindset. And it'll teach you how to you'll learn a little bit more of how to communicate with your child who might be an athlete, and you don't over push to the point where they're like, yeah, I don't want to train anymore. You're yelling at me during class to to hurt my sparring partner, or trying to coach me while I'm in class. Like that's a big turn off for kids. It's a lot of pressure for them. you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen a big change too in kids as well as and the ability to control the emotions. I mean, I think that's probably a big one that I've seen with just the benefit of putting your kids in early is they have to learn what it means to be uncomfortable and to lose and still be like, okay, I lost and I can do better next time, but like I have to emotionally regulate and just can't, you know, you'll have them have
Mhm.
meltdowns, of course, but not get so intense and so crazy because you can't do that in jujitsu. It doesn't work. It doesn't work when you start
Yeah,
losing your mind.
yeah.
What do you feel like has been the biggest benefit to confidence was the first one that you said, obviously, that you've seen with
Mhm.
children. What would you say the second thing that would be worth putting a child in jujitsu um, that you have seen as far as a positive return?
Um, we instill a lot of values, like honor, those loyalty, those type of things in our classes. So you could see kids, I mean, even just from like being able to stand still and listen, and we start from like where I start with like kids in kinder. That's where I start teaching. There's a class that does like pre-K, but I start with the kinder, and you see kids who are running around, and then like eventually after 3, 6 months, maybe, depending on the kid, some kids kind of catch on quick. They're standing in attention, and they're listening, and they're paying attention to the moves, and like those are the little things that people don't understand that your kids are gonna get out of jiu-jitsu. They think, oh, my kid's gonna become a fighter. Like, okay, like yeah, like your kid could hit an arm bar, but your kid now also stands still. Your kid can focus for longer than 15 seconds. Your kid is off their phone. Your kid now understands friendship and the value of family. So those type of things are things that people don't see, or maybe they don't understand that your kids are also picking up that. They're not just picking up physical abilities.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely say that's probably one of the top things I would agree with is just the ability to be actively listening and not also not put in a box like where they're in school and they're forced to sit because you're sitting to then apply what you're doing like right in that moment. And I feel like as a child, it's easier. They listen and concentrate for 2 to 3 minutes, the initial, position, and then they get to try to go work on it or they get to start drilling. So they're able to actually apply what they're learning immediately, which I think reinforces that positive behavior, the sitting and
Hmm.
listening. Well, that's very helpful. So, where can people find you, especially your artwork and just what you're continuing to show and share? I know you have Instagram, so anything else that we're going to put your Instagram down below.
Okay, my website for like prints, shirts, other rash guards, um, all that type of stuff is vndta.com. Um, and you can find like everything that I make, like you can buy there. Except for paintings, if you want a painting, you actually gotta talk to me and so send me a message.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Noah, for sharing your journey in jiu-jitsu and also artwork and having kids that have joined and making it a whole family event and hobby. I think a lot of people are looking forward to being able to share that with their kids as well, but just don't know how. So, anybody that wants to check his artwork out, I will link it down below as well as his Instagram handle so you guys can follow him. I appreciate you, and we'll be talking.
Thank you for having me.